Welcome everyone to another Amazy live session. Today we are going to talk about teaching business English, how to find the best resources, how to find your first clients and build relationship with them, and basically how to get into teaching business English. Our guest speaker today is Hellen Haga, and more about it a bit later. And here is me, your forever host, Polina Węglowska. I am Amazy Community Manager, and here we talk with market leaders and different teachers who can share their experience and expertise. For those of you who have joined us for the first time and who has never heard about what Amazy is, this is an online workspace for modern educators. On Amazy, you can find thousands of customizable, ready-to-use lesson plans and materials, all online, all interactive. You can save them, you can change them, suiting your needs, and you can also create your own resources. They can share with your students and other teachers. You can scan the QR code in the top left corner and go on amazy.uk. You can also just type it in your browser and check it out. So let me first introduce our guest speaker today, Hellen. Hellen is a teacher trainer, a business English teacher, and a founder of Higher Up Business English. Hellen gives a lot of different talks at ELT events, and she also holds different certificates and qualifications such as CELTA and Delta. And also, she's one of the co-founders of Conversations about BELF Business English as Lingua Franca. So let's welcome Hellen. Hi.
Hi, Polina. Hello. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for coming. How are you doing today?
Yeah, well, we might experience some trouble because we have had an accident with the electricity pole. So this is something you might not know, but in Europe, but in Brazil, our electricity runs on cables.
Yeah.
And the poles, yes, the poles are on the street. So when we have this sort of problem, such as a truck hitting a pole, then the whole block loses power. So we might
Well,
experience
we'll
some.
just persevere. Let's hope that it will not cause any discrepancies today. Okay, so today we have a lot of things to talk about, but first and foremost, if those of you watching have any questions to me, to Hellen, to both of us, to none of us, just a question about business English, please type it in the comments, in the chat, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, wherever you're watching us, and we will make sure to reply. And we have hi Haider, Hader, I think. Yeah, so we have some greetings already from our viewers. Thank you for coming. So yes, don't forget to ask your questions and let's see what we are going to talk about. But first, Hellen, I heard that you have a lot of interesting projects that you can share with us. And the first one was about your workshop. Can you tell me a little bit about the workshop that you teach?
Yes, of course. So this was a plan. A colleague invited a couple of us teachers to give these workshops to make CPD more accessible. So she came up with this wonderful idea. And in my case, well, I have experience in teaching business English. So the idea of this specific workshop is to explain a little bit of the things we're going to address today, because in this workshop I talk about how to go beyond the course book and the reasons to do so. And I have to explain right at the beginning of this conversation that I have nothing against course books. Okay, they are great. They are a fantastic source, especially if you're a novice teacher at Business English. You can find amazing resources there. You know, you can and certainly should use the course book, but I hope that you understand by the end of this conversation that teaching business English is much more than a course book. And this workshop has some very hands-on ways of meeting your clients' needs in terms of business English.
How long is the workshop?
It's just 1 hour.
Okay.
Very practical.
Is it a pre-recorded workshop, or is it something that you have to sign up for?
Yes, it's asynchronous. You can just watch. It's split in some bits, so it's quite easy to go through it. And I think people will find it very practical. This is something that sometimes people get into too much theory. Okay, I
Yeah.
tried to make something that you could use on Monday, you know?
Yes. Okay, on point. No water.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
And there was one more thing. This was conversations about business English as Lingua Franca. What's the difference between your workshop and this course or this project?
Okay, so the conversations about BELF, which stands for English as a Business Lingua Franca, and this distinction is very important to make, yes, because when the researchers who came up with this term coined the term, it was initially Business English as a Lingua Franca, but then they changed the acronym because they understood that we are using English to do business. So it's not about business English, it's about English as a whole to do business. And the conversations about BELF initiative is an idea that it's not just mine. We have 4 other co-founders. And what we see is that the theory behind BELF is inaccessible to a lot of teachers of business English. Therefore, our idea was to bring researchers, to bring articles, and to discuss them. So we have these live events once a month. They're free of charge. They last between 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, and they're open to everyone interested in learning more about BELF and business English in general in 2024, now 2025, because because the idea of BELF is to really understand how people are actually using English to do business. It's not just about a perfect native-driven English. It's much more than that. But we're going to talk about BELF in a moment.
I think we can move on to this straight away because, like, since we have started, that was my first question. What is business English? And we often talk about teaching ESP, English for specific purposes. How is business English part of that? Is it an umbrella term? Is this something more specific, or is it a completely different thing?
I think you said exactly the text reference of ESP versus business English. ESP is the umbrella term, and then business English lies within that. But it's always a bit tricky because, to give an example, now I'm providing a training to a hotel. So I'm training the receptionists to welcome guests. Okay, that would qualify as ESP. It's English for specific purposes. However, are they not being trained to do business?
They are.
By welcoming guests.
Yes.
Exactly. So, the latest, or maybe I shouldn't say latest because it has been going on forever, is the discussion that we should simply call English for the workplace, because when you talk about business English, a lot of people have this idea that, okay, so it's what people are doing at offices, and that's not true at all. For example, I'm going to talk about Evan. Evan Frendo gave a talk for IATEFL, and it was a plenary, and he brought a lot of examples of maritime English. So that would be ESP. But it's also business English because people are using English to do business, to do their job, you see. So, hi. I lost you for a second.
I just wanted to bring the spotlight to you because you were speaking so well.
I was worried that my internet had, dropped or something. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So in my mind, I would say that there isn't that much of a difference. Of course, when we talk about, for example, aviation English, that's pure ESP, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because it's for purposes. But how can it not be business English when people are using English to do their job? And
yeah,
this
yeah.
is
So I
what I
think
mean.
there are
That
some cross references there. Some ESP will not be business English. Like I'm having a yoga instructor right now who is learning English to be a yoga instructor, and we're doing a lot of that. That's not really business English. She's going to use it for work, so that's English for work. And I really like that term you have. Did you coin it, or is it?
no,
Was it
no, no, it's not mine. It's not mine. I have heard several people using this term, English for the workplace,
English
because
for the
that makes perfect
workplace?
sense.
It does. It does. I think
Yeah,
we need to reinvent or revolutionize or whatever, disrupt the whole thing, and need to stop
yeah,
using
yeah,
business
exactly.
English. Because what is business today? And that's okay. We are going to move on. We will talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
later.
Just,
But
Polina, I just want to make one last piece of what you said is very important, because ESP is not only English for the workplace. Because, for example, when we talk about preparing people for proficiency exams or whatever, so you are talking about ESP. It's for a specific purpose
yeah,
to get approved at a test, isn't it? So it
yeah.
has nothing to do with business English. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 you're right. You're right, of course. Right. So, how does one become a business English teacher? How do you get into doing
Ah,
it? Can anybody do it? And we did touch up on
yeah.
that in your interview that we did in our newsletter last week. And what you said there is that you have to have a specific mindset to be a business English teacher. Not everybody is cut out to do that. Can you elaborate on that? Can you explain what you meant?
Sure. I mean, any teacher of English would be suitable to teach business English. However, there are some particular things in a person's personality that would make them more suitable to be a teacher of business English. And by that, I mean, first and foremost, the identification with what you're doing. Because, for instance, I don't teach children simply because I cannot relate to that area. Okay, so when you're teaching business English, sometimes you're teaching things that teaching you're learning from your clients much more than teaching many times. But you're, for instance, talking about a topic that you're simply not interested at all, but you have to be at least a bit interested. Otherwise, then it's just, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah,
You can stick to grammar, you can stick to,
you don't have to be interested in
yes,
the
please.
topic itself, but you have to be interested in learning about the topic. You know?
Exactly. This is exactly what I mean. Otherwise, you can just stick to general business, general English, and that's it. So I would say interest in learning and learning more about what your clients do. And this is where it gets interesting, because you can actually choose niches to work in. So, for instance, nowadays I specialize in HR. I love talent acquisition. I love training, staff training. It's something I'm deeply into. But also, just because I have a lot of demand, I work a lot with programmers. So I have learned a lot about,
Yeah,
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 programming, about the different skills and everything.
yeah.
So this is something you have to have interest in developing. So this is one thing. Also, you have to be able to take a step back and learn from your clients, because a lot of people, they get into teaching because they like to hear themselves speak. Okay, I'm not going to say whether or not this is a positive thing as a teacher
Well,
trainer,
we've all heard
but
the 80 to 20% rule, so
yeah, yeah, no, but okay, but I do know a lot of people who are teachers because they simply like to hear
yeah,
themselves speaking, And well, I'm not going to debate whether or not this is positive, but in business, you have to be able to say, "I don't know. You teach
yeah,
me."
yeah,
This is not something, letting go of the power of what's going to happen in a lesson.
yeah,
It's not something everybody's comfortable with. You have to be flexible, to
yeah,
let your learner tell you, this is what I want,
yeah.
and this is a very scary position for a lot of people.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see,
Because as teachers,
it's much more.
we're usually the ones who are the knowledgeable ones in the classroom. We are used to knowing it all,
Yeah,
and then
I'm usually
here
not the
it's more
expert.
about students. Yeah, yeah. And then you also mentioned
Yes,
dog me
yes.
approach, and that you have to use dog me approach in business English a lot. Yeah,
A lot, because you have a
a
plan.
lot,
Okay,
all the
we're going
time.
to talk about this, but suddenly it doesn't happen.
No, no, that's true. That's true.
you know, yeah.
So
Let me.
to summarize,
Can I
sorry,
just
to
share?
summarize,
Yeah, sure.
you go ahead.
Sure. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, the lag is. Sorry. I just want to give a very specific example. One day I had this idea of in my mind. Okay, we're going to talk about chairing meetings because this particular client is struggling with that. And then this person came to me and said, I almost quit my job. And I said, what? What happened? And the person told me, oh, well, I was attending a meeting and my boss was really rude to me.
Okay.
So, yeah, my idea shifted completely. And then I started asking more questions, what happened and everything. And the person told me, oh, he was very inquisitive in front of everybody else in a board meeting. And that felt so offensive. I almost quit. And that moment, I had to think, okay, wait, was it really a problem of a personal problem, or was it an intercultural issue? And by
Yeah.
asking questions, I could identify that it wasn't personal at all. It was simply part of the boss culture.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this person almost quit their job, as a director at a multinational. So this is just to give an example of the kind of things that you have to do on the spot, and you have to be
Yeah.
prepared to do on the spot. It was completely dogmy, but it was also a kind of not a therapy session, but I had to say, look, was it really what you're saying?
Yeah.
Don't you
Yeah.
think
You
that?
provided a
So
perspective to
the
her.
Yes, exactly. And luckily she she got into, oh no, no, that's not really, yeah, maybe it wasn't what happened. And she had a conversation with the boss, and it wasn't exactly what happened. So also this relates to Belf. The intercultural aspects of communication in business English are essential. They're not just relevant, they are an intrinsic part of the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So to summarize,
Mhm.
as a teacher,
Sure.
you have to be flexible. You have to be interested to learn things that you do not know yourself. You don't have to become an expert
Mhm.
at these things, but you need to be aware of their existence at least. So you need to be prepared to read articles, maybe watch some videos, and also not knowing things is something you will encounter a lot. So you have to ask your students questions and invite them to participate in creating your curriculum together, because they know what they need to learn more than you do sometimes. And this is what's different between business English and general English. In general English, you know what they need to learn. In business English, sometimes you don't know, they do. So it's a collaboration between you and your students. And of course, being flexible, acting on the fly, using dog me approach, changing your plan because the student brought something in the classroom that is urgent and that has to be addressed straight away. Right. So that aside, where do you get the clients as a business English teacher? How do you find the students?
Mm-hmm. I would say there is no recipe, unfortunately,
Right.
but there are a couple things that work in across different places. So, for instance, first and foremost, word of mouth. You can always ask your own students to bring your students, and asking is very interesting because I noticed that we as teachers sometimes are afraid of asking our clients, to refer
Yes,
us to
we
others. You know,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, we feel uncomfortable. But I would say, first and foremost, ask them if they can. Where do you work? Can you give me a contact of somebody in HR who I could talk to, and talk about my business and talk about what I do? So you start with your own network.
Yeah.
But something I do that is very positive in terms of prospecting new clients and closing deals is attending business events. So
Hmm.
as teachers, we attend a lot of EOT events, and I love them, of course. As a teacher trainer, this is also part of my business. But it's important that you expand your site in terms of, okay, what sort of niche am I interested? For instance, in HR. So I attend a lot of HR events
Hmm.
because then I get to know people in the area and
Right.
they
Right.
can refer clients to me, and then I can have further conversations about, okay, what about your company's needs in terms of business English training? So can we talk about that? And that has led me to some very productive meetings and very profitable contracts.
Okay. Okay. Kudos to you. Right. So
Yeah.
have to put yourself out there. That's what I always say as well. Because if you
Mhm.
do not voice it, if you do not tell people that you are open to new clients, that
Mhm.
you're open to these kind of collaborations, they will not happen.
Mhm.
If you want to win a
Yeah,
lottery,
yes,
buy a ticket.
yes, exactly. You have to toot your own horn, lead your own drums. You have to put yourself out there. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's easier to work for somebody else.
Yeah,
If
that's
you're willing
true.
to be an entrepreneur, you have to sell yourself. I'm
That's
sorry.
true. That's true. I really like your advice on attending conferences. I never thought of that.
Mhm.
That's genius, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank you for sharing
mean,
that.
yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, and I think we can move on to the final question that we wanted to discuss today is where do you find resources? And we almost got there at some point because you said that course books are great, course books are good for beginner teachers, but I think when it comes to business English specifically, course books is not something that you will probably need to use or something that you probably shouldn't use that much. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I would say start with a course book for sure. If you don't know where to start, get a course book. I mean, there are wonderful course books out there. Business Results, for example, and Pearson
True.
has launched it's called Business Partner series, which is
Mm-hmm.
also
I heard
very
of that.
good. Yeah, it's up to date. However, bear in mind that teaching business English means catering to your client's needs.
Yeah.
There is no course book that will cater to every single client's needs. You know what I mean? So you really will have to develop your own material all the time, and
True.
that's why I suggest using, for example, Evan Frendo's "How to Write Corporate Training Materials." It is really wonderful because he tells exactly about that. Okay, how to analyze your client's needs and how you can consider how to meet these needs, you know. So that's why I seriously recommend this book. This is not exactly it's not a course book. Okay, this is not going to bring you you're going to do this or that, but it's going to teach you how to think about writing your training materials. And also, the second material, intercultural competence, is absolutely absolute gold. You know, Rudy and Judith, they talk a lot about the intercultural aspects of business communication. And I think it's important to highlight that because many times people focus a lot on accuracy. So, okay, my student sounds perfect. It's absolutely perfect in terms of native standards. However, that sounds too difficult for others to understand, for
Yeah.
example, or it may sound inappropriate.
Okay. Okay, I see what you mean. Yes.
Yes. So the intercultural aspects of business communication, as I said, they are paramount. You cannot simply
Absolutely.
ignore it.
Yeah. We
Okay.
actually have two questions.
True.
Two questions in one. So Summer's asking, hi, Summer. First one is, do you mostly teach employees in companies you have contracts with or individual customers? That's the first question.
50-50. B2B contracts are amazing if you can get one of those, but it's much harder to do business with companies. Okay, you have a lot of requirements to fulfill, sometimes some legal obligations that as a teacherpreneur you're not ready to suffice. So in that case, I would say finding clients, direct clients, are much easier. So B2C, it's much easier. So
Okay, you
it's a
can. This
very
is
good
where you
start.
can start with.
Yes, exactly. Very good starting point.
Okay, but how do you get to B2B?
Aha. So networking.
Networking.
Yes, that is the best answer I can give you.
Okay. And
As
also,
I
you have
said,
to study the legal requirements. You have to have all of your taxes, all of your contracts, ready, and all of that has to be
exactly.
clear. And the second
Exactly.
question is, what are some famous business English events? Are there any specifically business English events?
Yes. IATEFL, for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
IATEFL is, yeah, I don't know if everybody knows it, but IATEFL has a specific SIG, which is the B SIG, Business English SIG. It's like an interest group. And it's like, no, they are an interested group. And they organize once a month a specific business English event. So this is one that is worth attending. And they also, as a member of the BSIG, you have, I don't know if they're monthly events anymore. I can't remember, but they organize events quite often talking about business English and teaching business English. So they're really worth attending. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
You can
It
scan
is
the
superficial.
you can scan the QR code and you can get to IATEFL website. Search through there. I didn't have time to find the specific business English meetings there, but look, and there must be something there. I have heard, of course, a lot about IATEFL. I'm planning to maybe this year, maybe next year, attend one of the conferences as well. So that's a good
Yeah,
recommendation.
it's really good.
Okay,
Yeah. About
so resources.
resources.
Resources, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Of course, finally, let's. I always want to talk a bit about Amazy because, right, what
Because
you
it's
said,
amazing.
it's amazing. What you said is that you have to do a lot of tailor-made lessons. You have to find your own materials a lot. So on Amazy, you can find some ready-made lessons already created by teachers. And you can customize them, or you can use Amazy to create your own materials. But the thing is that you can take somebody else's lesson and use it as, like, what is it called?
Starting point.
Yeah, sorry. Starting point. Some brain freeze. And go from there. Use it as a template. Thank you. Use it as a template for
Ah,
your
yeah,
own material.
good.
Right. So let's take a look at what we have there already. Um, okay. I think, yes, you can
Oh,
see the
there's some really
screen.
good ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you just type in business English in the search bar, you will already see that there are so many great resources available. um, they're not always named business English. So if you have a particular topic in mind, like meetings, I don't know, emails or whatever, this is something you can look up.
Mhm.
And actually, making your own resources is so important in comparison to using a course book, because once people do not write emails the way they used to, the way they did even 5 years ago. I think that's completely changed. People don't do meetings; they do online meetings now. That's completely changed. The way the whole atmosphere, the whole work ethics are changing, and they're changing by day. So you have to adapt to that, and you
Yeah.
have to keep that in mind as well. So creating raw materials will be a necessity for you. Right, so let's
Yeah.
take a look at one of the resources. We don't have time for all of them, I think, but I wanted to show you my resource, the one that I created.
Yeah, show yours. Yeah, show yours. Yes, I
Right.
loved it. Yeah.
And this was actually created specifically for my student. He works in agriculture, and he often attends those expos where he has to talk with different clients, and he has to showcase his company's machinery and things like that. And his level was not very high, so he could not do that on his own. He had to have some training from me. And this is the lesson I created for that. So if I walk you through very quickly, we did revise talking about, who he is, some vocabulary related to networking. It was specifically, networking at agricultural fairs and events. But we did have some vocabulary related to that a little bit. But yeah, it's a lot of just talking about networking in general. So as I said, you can save this lesson. Let me pull up the QR code, and you can adapt it to your own client's situation. It doesn't have to be an expo, because a lot of exercises and materials here, they're just about networking, not specifically expos.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is a booth, for example, but a lot of different
Mhm.
events will have booths. So what if you
Mhm.
have looked through it, can you give me some feedback?
Yeah, sure. This was lovely, I would say, because as you said, it's a wonderful template. And I just thought about, I was preparing some clients for Chinese fair, the Canton Fair, and
Yeah.
they have to do exactly that.
Okay.
They have to network. I think one thing this brought me a lot of thoughts. I would use, for example, this part of practicing. I would certainly talk about the art of small talk, because again, the intercultural aspect of the whole conversation, because some people do small talk quite easily. For instance, you brought Madeline's video. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, she's amazing. I have used a lot of videos from her with my clients who have to participate in recruitment processes in the US,
Yeah.
because she's US American. So she knows how they think and what's important to them. Just to give an example, for US Americans, it's important that you sell yourself at an interview. So you have to say things like, oh, I did this and I did that. I was responsible for that. But for
Yeah.
a Brazilian, that simply doesn't come naturally. We don't know how
Yeah.
to do that,
Yeah.
because in our culture, it's always about our team did this, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
again, when you bring small talk at this lesson, is wonderful, because you can talk to your client about who do you expect to meet, where do these
Mhm.
people come from, and are you aware that you have to be able to talk about this and this and this topic because this is expected in this culture or not. You see, so I thought it was a really wonderful starting point. In terms of vocab, it's spot on because it's exactly what the person would need. Some functional language because sometimes people are very worried about grammar. For example, oh, let's I don't know. Let's focus on present simple for introductions. No, give them some phrases they're going to use.
Chunks.
Exactly what.
Yeah.
Yes, you know,
Lexical approach
these
will work best here.
exactly. It would be wonderful here. So, functional language is much more useful than focusing on grammar, for example. And who cares if they forget the s in third person of singular, as long as they're getting the job done. You see.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is where I thought your lesson was really strong. You see, I think it's a wonderful starting point for anybody who has to teach this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, we do not have more time to look at many other resources. But as I said, just simply go on amazy.uk and go to the community, type in business English or your particular topic. You will find a lot of amazing resources, all the ones you can use as a starting point. So you can mix and match and stuff. Helen, thank you so much for coming today, for
My pleasure.
sharing your
My pleasure.
expertise. Let me just very quickly pull up the QR code for your workshop. If you want to
Thank
learn
you.
more, if you want to hear more, if you are not sated, and you must not be, because we just touched up upon this topic very little, very briefly, scan this QR code and go to Helen's workshop to learn more. At this point, we have to say goodbye, but it's not a farewell.
Yes, too bad. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Bye bye. And before we finish, just a little gift to everybody, an early Christmas gift. We are giving away a huge discount to our users. So this QR code can be, this promo code can be used for an annual plan purchase on amazy.uk. So if you go on Amazy and if you purchase annual plan, you will get 40% off. You can use this code. It's XMAS, XMAS. Type it in the code and you will get a 40% discount. So this is our gift to everybody watching. It's valid until the 31st of December. So do not miss this opportunity to get your huge discount. And at this point, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. And I will see you again in the new year. Bye bye.